After being reincarnated into a new world, Hiraku became a farmer, using his extraordinary farming skills. He built a beautiful world all for himself. Hiraku could hardly believe that after dying, he was able to live the life he had always dreamed of. It all began many years ago when Hiraku, unable to fight against the terminal illness he had contracted, passed away at the age of 39 while in a hospital bed. He thought everything had come to an end, but to his surprise, Hiraku found himself as a soul, and standing before him was God, the ruler of the world. God explained that Hiraku's life, filled with betrayal and illness, was a result of God's negligence. To make amends, God decided to grant Hiraku a new life along with a healthy, disease-free body. Hiraku was overjoyed and after hearing this expressed his desire to become a farmer, because while he was bedridden, he had watched a program about idols becoming farmers, and it had always fascinated him. God, upon hearing this, immediately connected with the god of agriculture to negotiate. After receiving approval, God granted Hiraku a life as a farmer, a healthy body, and a powerful, almost mythical farming tool. In an instant, Hiraku woke up to find himself in a forest. It was the first time since lying in his hospital bed that he could move his body again. Filled with enthusiasm for farming, Hiraku was determined to start his new life. The first thing that came to mind was to scout the area, as the surroundings were filled with dense forest and there were no signs of human habitation. When Hiraku looked at his outfit, it was the authentic attire of a farmer. As for the powerful farming tool, he activated it and created a hoe. Hiraku was unsure what kind of magic created the hoe, but it was incredibly light. Even when using it on hard soil or tree roots, it required little effort. After working for a while, Hiraku realized he needed water and food. He began to listen closely to see if there were any nearby rivers or streams, but all he could hear were the rustling leaves. After walking for a while, Hiraku came across a large tree in a prime location. He decided to set up camp there and continued his search. Since there were no rivers or streams nearby, Hiraku used his powerful tool again to create a shovel, intending to dig a well and find underground water. After digging for some time, he finally hit a water source. With the water issue resolved, his next concern was food. However, to his surprise, Hiraku didn't feel hungry at all. So, he continued to use his farming tool to clear the surrounding area, aiming to create a field. To do so, he needed to chop down a tree. He immediately created an axe and planned to chop both sides to fell the tree. But unexpectedly, with just one swing, the tree fell down, forcing him to quickly run away, unable to believe that such a versatile farming tool could be so powerful. This time, he created a machete, which easily peeled the bark and cut the wood into pieces. Next, he made a hook to pull other trees from afar to the base. After gathering enough wood to build a shelter, it was almost evening. At this point, Hiraku became worried, unsure where he would sleep that night or how to start a fire. Matches would burn out after a while, so he needed to figure out something more efficient. He remembered the physics knowledge he had learned and then created a magnifying glass to gather fire from the sun. Just then, the sun set. Luckily, the moon was unexpectedly bright that night, perhaps because there were two moons in this place. This allowed Hiraku to see clearly and create more wooden tools for daily life. After working through the night, the sun came up. Hiraku went down to the well to get some water, but suddenly remembered something more important: to gather fire from the sun. He continued exploring the area and created a large field. While working, he wondered what to eat for lunch. Suddenly, a rabbit appeared from afar, clearly hungry, and it came right up to him, offering itself as food. After enjoying the natural gift, Hiraku decided to make a toilet. He used all his construction knowledge to build it, and after completing it, he was able to relieve himself comfortably in harmony with nature. Next, Hiraku finished building a resting place and then returned to his work, digging the soil to create the field. While working, he wondered what he would plant once the field was ready: potatoes, tomatoes, or cucumbers. But when the field was finished, he realized that without seeds, there was nothing to plant for food. However, unexpectedly, just after waking up one morning, the seedlings had sprouted on their own without any seeds. Perhaps it was due to the power of the versatile farming tool that they could grow like that. And now, the next task was to protect his food supply from wild animals. Hiraku continued to use the versatile farming tool to create a wooden wall and dug a trench around it to prevent the animals from getting close. After finishing, he went into the forest to hunt a rabbit for lunch. Over the following days, the crops began to grow, and Hiraku also completed a small shelter. However, he couldn't lift the wood to build a proper roof. So he had to dig the foundation to create more space inside. Hiraku was very happy to realize that his dream world was almost complete. The next morning, as usual, Hiraku went to check outside the fence and saw two large dogs. One appeared to be injured, so he brought them inside and offered them some of the wild boar meat from the previous day that he hadn't finished. He soon realized that the female dog wasn't injured at all but was actually pregnant and about to give birth. That night, he allowed the pair of wild dogs to stay in the shelter, while he returned to sleep in the tree hollow. The next morning, when Hiraku woke up, he went to check on the shelter and saw that the mother dog had safely given birth to her puppies. He was very happy and gave them the best parts of the wild boar meat. From then on, Hiraku's farm had more members. The tomatoes were ready to be harvested, and the dogs helped him hunt and guard the area. At this point, the initial tasks to establish the farm were completed. Although there were still many things Hiraku hadn't done, he decided to live leisurely and enjoy this life. Meanwhile, in the realm of the gods, the deity wanted to check if Hiraku was living well. After all, he had once subjected him to a life of injustice, and now he wanted to make sure Hiraku was truly happy in his new life. However, a mistake was made once again. This time, the god had sent Hiraku to a deadly forest full of monsters, thinking that the farmer would soon be eaten and that his life would end quickly, bringing him back to the divine realm. Hiraku thinks that life is still quite primitive because the food he has is only rabbit meat and vegetables. So, he decides to try planting fruit trees like apples or pears and see how it goes. While waiting for them to grow, he comes up with an idea to use his dogs, since they can track scents. After finishing building a bathroom so he can work here later, Hiraku returns with his pets in a cart made from the all-purpose farming tool. But after a short distance, the cart tips over because the forest still doesn't have any roads. When he finally gets back to the base, Hiraku expands his field to plant more rice and rapeseed. Time passes and the weather turns to winter, making Hiraku feel cold. His winter clothing is just a rabbit skin that smells rotten, so lately he has to start a fire and stay inside his makeshift shack. At that moment, a giant spider appears at Hiraku's base, capable of weaving fabric. In an instant, it creates a scarf, surprising him. The spider loves eating potatoes, so it weaves a warm coat for Hiraku out of his rabbit skin. Since then, things like blankets and curtains are no longer a concern because the spider has made its nest in a large tree at the base, and Hiraku names it Jabutone. After a while, snow falls heavily. Even though Hiraku had prepared plenty of food to survive the winter, he still feels uneasy, mainly due to the loneliness from not having interacted with any humans for a long time. Before long, winter ends and spring arrives. The dogs that Hiraku named Seyuno have changed. They've matured and started looking for mates. Seeing them in pairs makes Hiraku feel even lonelier. Even Jabutone has many offspring, but Hiraku still has no friends. Just then, Jabutone rings the alarm, surprising Hiraku. He thinks there might be danger approaching the base, so he goes into the forest to check. When he arrives, he finds a girl who is stuck in the spider's web naked. Hiraku doesn't know why she's here or what she has done to frighten his pets, but when he hears her cry for help, he immediately rushes over and gives her his coat. Suddenly, the girl bites Hiraku's neck. After taking some of his blood, she transforms into an adult with her own clothes. However, when she tries to thank Hiraku for helping her, the dogs attack, causing her to shrink back to her previous size. She then asks Hiraku to get the dogs to leave her alone. Hiraku learns that their meeting was a coincidence, and the girl has no intention of harming him. She had bitten him to regain her strength and maintain her outfit. Feeling pity for her, Hiraku allows her to drink more of his blood as his healthy body can withstand it without getting weaker. Afterward, he takes her back to his base. When she sees what Hiraku has grown, she's astonished and can't believe such a beautiful place exists in the middle of the forest, filled with fruits she's never seen before. Hiraku, seeing her joy, picks a tomato for her, and she eats it with great delight. Watching her smile makes Hiraku forget about his loneliness. That night, he learns that her name is Lucy Rue, and she's a vampire capable of using magic. She had a herb research project, and a noble wanted to steal her research. When she tried to escape, he sent people after her, forcing her to flee to this forest. Fortunately, she met Hiraku here and found food she had never known. She wants to stay for a while to study these new things. Realizing this may be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Hiraku gets down on one knee and asks Lucy to stay with him forever. Having lived alone for so long, Hiraku desperately wants someone to live with him. Lucy is initially hesitant, being a vampire and in danger, but when she sees Hiraku's sincerity, she agrees to stay with him. Hiraku is overjoyed and hugs her. Since Lucy has come to live with him, life has become much more cheerful. However, she has to shrink her size to control Hiraku in case he gets too passionate. Lucy then asked Hiraku to plant more herbs for her research. Afterward, she helps him with various tasks, such as using magic to light up the bathroom and helping him find salt nearby for cooking. After finishing their work, they rest and enjoy a cup of herbal tea, which tastes so good that Hiraku decides to grow more tea plants. At that moment, they hear the alarm from Jabatone. When they rush to check, they find a familiar sight: another girl with angel wings stuck in the spider's web, just like Lucy before. After being freed, the girl uses magic to heal herself. Hiraku realizes that she's here to capture Lucy, but before she can do anything, the dogs deal with her. Lucy introduces Hiraku as her husband, which surprises him since it's the first time she said this. The angel girl, named Tia, belongs to the angelic race. When asked why she came to capture Lucy, Tia explains that Lucy caused trouble in a town, but Lucy clarifies that it was a troublesome noble who forced her to make medicine for him. Instead, she created explosive medicine that embarrassed the noble, and that's why he offered a large bounty for her capture. Tia had to pursue her, but was too weak to succeed. After hearing this, Tia also realizes she is weaker than Lucy, having just been handled by the dogs. Lucy then suggests that Tia stay with them, as life here is enjoyable and she will certainly like it. Tia agrees to visit the fields with Lucy to see the crops Hiraku has grown. However, when they meet Jabatone, Tia faints from fear, as she is terrified of spiders. Lucy then persuades Tia to join them in harvesting crops with Hiraku. Tia can't believe that an angel like her would be doing such work, but after Hiraku's guidance, she does it easily. Hiraku then offers her some cabbage with salt to taste its freshness. After a long day's work, they harvest everything they need. Tia even tries a sweet and sour strawberry and says she enjoys farming. Lucy, seeing this, urges Tia to stay since she can't handle things alone. Tia is confused but agrees to stay with Lucy and Hiraku from then on. Now, the three of them live together happily, working hard on the farm. Tia even wants Hiraku to plant more strawberries. Hiraku agrees but faces difficulties due to the lack of workers. The three of them visit the shack to check on the dogs, which have grown and reproduced a lot, causing Tia to be frightened. The shack has become cramped, so Hiraku decides to move the dogs to a bigger space. At this point, Hiraku sees that some of Jabatone's children are leaving with the wind, but some decide to stay with their mother, which reassures him. Tia then says she wants to go out with Hiraku, and although he thinks she might leave, she soon returns with a group of beautiful fairy girls. They introduce themselves and express their desire to stay with Hiraku. Despite their youthful appearance, the fairy girls are actually several hundred years old. Tia then tells Hiraku their tragic backstory. They lived in the north, but 200 years ago, their homeland was destroyed by a war between humans. Since then, they have wandered the forest and are now seeking a place to settle down and reproduce. They want to live with Hiraku. After hearing this, and being persuaded by both Lucy and Tia, Hiraku agrees. The group then encounters Jabatone and the dogs, which scare the fairy girls so much that they faint. With the increase in people, Hiraku decides to build a new home. Since the 7 fairy girls want to live together, it will be a very large house. Using the all-purpose farming tool, Hiraku quickly clears the surrounding trees. The fairy girls, skilled in building, complete the house in just 10 days, which excites everyone. However, Hiraku feels a bit sad when he sees that the house is several times bigger than his shack. The fairy girls soon adapt to farm life, so Hiraku doesn't have to worry about the harvest anymore. One day, he talks to Laya, one of the fairy girls, and learns that the fairies eat meat and use fire, which is different from what he had known before. Laya believes that if Hiraku had lived like this in the forest, it would have been overgrown by now. Laya thinks Hiraku is a bit outdated and offers to help him with metalworking. She and the other fairy girls work better than the dwarves, putting iron powder and coal from the river into the forge, heating it up, and creating a beautiful frying pan. Hiraku praises them, and Laya says it's easy for them since they've lived as nomads for 200 years, and what they want now is to have children. When Hiraku hears this, He worries about his own health, but is happy that the fairy girls have come to live with him. Later, Lai asks about the rice field, and Hiraku explains that he has already harvested and ground the rice into flour. Laya wanted to ask for some flour to bake a cake. Hiraku happily agreed, so the girls baked the cake together. A little while after the cake came out of the oven, everyone saw it and couldn't resist wanting some. They all enjoyed it deliciously because it was impossible to resist such a tasty cake. Hiraku, not being able to resist, started thinking about expanding the fields. Jun speak in terms of influence, this area might actually belong to the Demon King. Upon hearing this, Hiraku became nervous because he had unknowingly disturbed the overlord of this world. He wondered if his base here would cause trouble for the Demon King. That evening, all three girls sat down and talked about Hiraku, and they all admired him. Not only had he tamed a pack of hell wolves and a demon spider, but he had also created a bountiful farm. However, Hiraku still didn't know much about this world, and yet he lived a carefree life. The girls knew that all Hiraku thought about was what to do next for his base. The next morning, when Hiraku woke up, he saw a queen bee trapped in a spider's web at Jabatin's place. Since he knew the bee wasn't dangerous, he decided to keep it at the base. Near the fruit orchard, Hiraku built a small hut for the bee to make its hive. 10 days later, the hive was completed, but Hiraku didn't know how to harvest honey yet. Tia thought the hive was interesting, but when she got too close, she got scared and flew off. Hiraku went to check the reservoir he had previously made, planning to lead water from the stream there for daily use and agricultural development. However, he still didn't know how to bring the water there. At first, he considered using stones to build a channel, but Laya pointed out that it would be hard to find stones in the forest. If he used wood, the water would leak too much along the channel. So, using the large pile of earth he had dug up for the reservoir, Hiraku used his multi-purpose farming tool to make the earth as hard as concrete and formed a channel. Thanks to their construction skills, the channel was completed quickly, and the water from the stream flowed straight into the reservoir. Hiraku noticed that many strange fish were swimming in the water. They became lunch for everyone. At first, Du and Tia didn't dare eat them because the fish were very aggressive. However, seeing Hiraku eating them normally, they decided to try them. After tasting them, Ai also praised them for being delicious. Even the fairy girls wanted to try, so soon the fish were all eaten up. Afterward, Hiraku prepared his tools to plant rice. He had previously tried growing rice, and now that water was available in the reservoir, he quickly used his multi-purpose farming tool to make two rice fields and flooded them with water. The fairy girls thought Hiraku was raising fish, but as they saw him preparing seedlings to plant, he reminded everyone to help him out. Though they were not yet used to it, they finished the rice fields together. Thanks to the multi-purpose farming tool, the rice grew almost instantly. Afterward, Hiraku and the girls harvested the rice and dried it to remove moisture. To separate the grains, Hiraku created a threshing machine from the time of Stone Age. After threshing the rice, he used a mortar to grind it into rice. Finally, Hiraku had rice grains that he had made himself. Ru and Tia seemed eager to taste them, but Hiraku said there was one more step: cooking. He asked Ru to use fire magic to help him cook the rice, and within moments the rice was ready. Du was eager to eat, but Hiraku said there was still one last step. He shaped the rice into rice balls, filling them with the fish from earlier. After all their hard work, the girls got to enjoy the fruits of their labor, constantly praising how delicious it was. Hiraku felt that this was the happiest moment for a farmer like him. But when he went to grab some, there was only one rice ball left. Seeing how much they enjoyed the rice balls, Hiraku decided to plant another field so they could easily get more rice. The fairy girls could easily clean themselves using magic, sometimes even with just a sneeze, but Hiraku couldn't do that. So, he decided to build a big bathhouse. After drawing up the design for the girls to see, they immediately got to work, and soon the bathhouse was completed. The water for the bath could be taken from the stream, but Hiraku didn't know where to drain the used water. Tia suggested using slimes to clean the wastewater and waste. She then went out to catch a bunch of slimes for Hiraku to test. Though Hiraku thought they might attack him like other adventurers had experienced, the slimes turned out to be gentle. They could clean the... Hiraku later gathered firewood to heat the water and discovered that mushrooms had grown in large quantities. Worried that they might be poisonous, he tried to figure out which mushrooms were edible. He spent the whole day experimenting with mushrooms and only started the bathhouse in the evening. Since the fairy girls were used to wild living, Hiraku had to guide them step by step on how to use the bath. First, they had to strip down, then pour hot water over their bodies to clean themselves. Once they were clean, they could enjoy the bath. Hearing this, the girls followed suit and joined Hiraku in the bath, which made him embarrassed. He thought about making a separate bath for himself, but they insisted on bathing together because it was more fun and saved them from heating water multiple times. The next morning, when Hiraku checked on the mushrooms again, they had grown even more. He was planning to make a mushroom hot pot when he saw the dogs bringing 5 more fairy girls to the base. All the new girls' names began with La, as they were from the same family. When Hiraku learned that these girls had the same circumstances as Laya's group, he took them into his base. Laya then suggested that the first thing they do was build a house for the 5 girls and also renovate Hiraku's house. With the number of people increasing, the fairy girls were very happy because they would soon be able to restore their tribe and have more descendants. However, Hiraku wasn't sure how to do this. Kyuzo, the dog, then started to share its thoughts. It had lived in the wild before and had a mate. When it found out that she was pregnant, it doubted its ability to lead a family, unlike other species. Because of this, it couldn't fight off a wild bear, and both of them were severely injured. Afterward, Kyuzo returned to the center of the forest to avoid the bears. Normally, creatures like the fairy girls who hid deep in the forest couldn't settle down long term. But unexpectedly, Kyuzo met Hiraku, and with the help of the multi-purpose farming tool, Hiraku saved both Kyuzo and its mate. After that, Hiraku invited them to have wild boar meat and took care of them, so they didn't want to leave anymore. Thus, the 2 dogs and their descendants became Hiraku's pets. When you see a lot of girls following you, it's not out of admiration, but Hiraku didn't know that the dogs you're raising are hell wolves, a creature that the world must fear. But they won't stop because they always show up in their hearts. Be grateful to your owner. A few days later, their new house was completed. Because it's invested in everything from digging nails to pillars, it's going to be the best house ever. When you get inside, then Hiraku just saw how wide it was. 3 girls take Hiraku to visit all the rooms, from the dining room to the kitchen, and then there's the food storage basement. Then a private room for Hiraku, like every different girl, and a special room used to create descendants. It makes you lose your words too. The house also has a direct view of the old tree. It makes Hiraku feel like he's protecting himself. Make the house more beautiful. Hiraku also made statues of dogs and put them in front of the door. When you're done, prepare lunch for everyone. I want to try a new dish. So Hiraku decided to make curry. When Ru and Tia were wondering how to make this dish, Hiraku said that this one is very simple. You just drop something called Ru in there. Make the girl miss here. I thought you had such a terrible hobby. Then 3 people went out to the food field to prepare the ingredients for curry. The first is the seed of the tree. It's the main ingredient that makes curry smell. Then there's turmeric, which makes curry yellow. After cleaning the bottom, Ru and Tia use magic to dry them. Next is coriander seeds for curry powder. And their green leaves are coriander. Although Hiraku finds vegetables very fragrant, but when the dogs sniffed, they ran out of slippers. There is a tree that can chase the dogs of hell. I want to study them too. And even Hiraku kept getting more pepper and chili, but when I turned around, I couldn't see anyone. So the 2 girls went to study coriander. So it's just Hiraku and Leah making curry. Thanks Hiraku tutorial. So pretty soon you're done. Waiting for the meat to soften. Then Hiraku sees something missing. So that's cake. A kind of bread like bread. Hiraku counted enough people to eat and start processing. The first is to roll the flour for flat. Then spread it on the back of the pan. A few minutes later the cake was ready. The meat is about to be soft. Travel and TIA. When the smell of curry makes your stomach wobble, don't keep everyone waiting. So Hiraku and the girls enjoy curry. God, no one has ever eaten this. So Hiraku taught them how to eat curry, along with the cake. Then the girls try it. And relentless praise. The more you eat, the better. So not much of the curry pot was clean. The dogs can't eat it because it's quite spicy. There's chili and pepper. Hiraku also suffered the same fate. When I touched the curry pot, there was nothing left but seeing everyone's happy faces. It makes you happy. The winter of that year was near. make Hiraku have to prepare the wood to reserve. And Jabatone is about to hibernate. So before that, it made you pads. Ru and Tia are preserving the meat. By seasoning and smoking, Hiraku is about preserving vegetables. Enough food for the winter. You put all the vegetables in the boxes and put the cloth on top. It's a little cold when it snows. From them will preserve the vegetables to be lush. After that, go back to the place. You can use magic in an easy way. So Hiraku tried to imitate, but nothing happened. Hiraku asked you that night, if you don't learn magic properly, it will not be possible. It was only at this point that Hiraku realized that he was very inferior. I know how to use and cook, but Du immediately said that, you're the best here. Because only you can settle in a place like this. That's something that no AI has ever done before. Finally, winter has come. Hiraku went around checking and found everything was fine. This is a lot of time in the house. So, you've made all sorts of games like chess flips, chess, and mahjong slide. After being instructed by Hiraku to play flip chess, then Ru and Tia decided to fight. Because you've both had a lot of bad luck in the past, so they're going to use this to solve it. In the first game where Ru was overwhelmed by Tia. See that? She ruined the game by pretending to miss her hand and knocked it over. The game was supposed to be played again, but Tia can easily use magic to make the chessboard the same again. Then Hiraku across the table of Teferi girls. This match seems to be equally stressful. When I see Kuzu, I can show you water. That surprised Hiraku. Can't believe that. The animals can understand the rules and play together like human beings. Hiraku is going to challenge them now. But when you realize the power of fear, then there's Ru. After losing to Tia, he then challenged Kuzo to victory. I thought it was delicious because it was a dog, but you ended up with the same result. Next, the whole group played mahjong to avenge Chodu, so Hiraku is determined to win. But the result is you're back to the best. The winner is Kuzo. And so, you have to join the losers with Ru goodbye to mind games. The next game is bowling, because you don't understand why you have to drop those batteries. So Hiraku painted the bad guys, let you throw the ball and finish them off. Maybe it's simple and highly entertaining. It's very popular with girls, thanks to the games that Hiraku brings. So the winter's not too long gone. The snow also melts in. Spring has come to your kingdom. On his first day back at work, Hiraku wanted to finish his cultivation. But when you asked if Zabatone was awake, suddenly I heard him ring the alarm. Everybody run out. I found out there was a big dragon flying straight back to the base. Tia said it's a weave-in. And I don't know how it got here. Hiraku is going to do something to get rid of it. The weave-in made a loud roar. It accumulates energy and then launches straight back to the base. At the same time, Ru and Tia used defensive magic in time. So the fairy girls had to put out the fire quickly. It could destroy its base. So Hiraku had to take it down right here. Now the power of farming tools is universal. Turned itself into a lance in Hiraku's hand. He picked it up and threw it straight at the gibbon. He used his power to stop it. But Hiraku's lance is stronger. The dragon was injured on one side. After the lance came back, then you throw it again. Put the dragon on the altar. Always witness the power of Hiraku. It surprised the girls. Mixed with fear, people then arrive. The dragon fell to check. When looking at the body of the weave-in, Hiraku wondered, should be someone sent them here to attack the base, or not? He replied that he must have. It's just wild, and just happened to be here. If you see that, you are safe, and bring Raven home for dinner. The girls are excited to see Hiraku making. When they first ate raven meat, because the AI approaches them to hunt, they're all burned to ash. Hiraku then put all the dishes from the quiven meat on the plate. Everyone, they ate a delicious meal in joy. You and Tia talked about the lance of the afternoon. With a face still scared. They both think, if they eat that lance, I wouldn't be sitting here anymore. You're lucky to only see dogs here. It's not Hiraku, like in court. It's in the king's fortress right now. 3 of the 4 kings were very worried when I found out that Raven was killed with just 2 attacks. They don't know who the competition is, but it's so powerful. Just scared to have it. He resigned at the time. Dragon's side gatekeeper, Doram, also asked Gucci's subordinates that, what if he eats that spear? Gucci said, if they hit, they're all like Raven. That's it. So it's best not to take revenge on Hiraku. Now Hiraku remembered yesterday's raven meat. It's delicious, but there's something missing. Looking through the vineyard, Hiraku realized it was wine. You think there's alcohol in this world, because you see people working so hard to harvest. Now just grind the grapes and ferment them. Then the wine is ready. And that is, you ask the girls to stomp enthusiastically on the grapes, and the Hiraku below will change the barrel for inspiration, because these boxes are carefully made, so I won't worry about water leaking out. At first the girls were not familiar. No one has ever stepped on food. Hiraku saw that. Follow a circle and be careful. Don't get entangled. But as soon as I finished, Leia and Tie fell. Now Tie thinks, so that everyone can move equally, there needs to be a way to signal. And so they figured out how to walk and sing. Make those. The steps are more equal. Both Du and Hiraku were later dragged into the group as well. Soon 16 barrels of wine were finished. And just wait for the fermentation to finish. It's a little too much. If you drink every day, it's fast anyway. Hiraku's life is very happy. But God is still a girl. I am the god of agriculture. I threw you into the dead forest. Now I give you green. People who hold it up. It's been drained of energy before and after. You said Hiraku won't stop, because you have a healthy body. But your daughter hasn't forgiven you yet. When Hiraku cast her into an old man, so he was knelt there by his daughter for 300 years, to repent of my sins. And in Hiraku there's an alarm. When I arrived, I saw a familiar sight. What year did the girl get caught in spider silk? This time it's your cousin Flora. She said, I knew my sister was being chased by a dark angel. I followed my sister here. I can't believe how long Ti has been behind her. Flora was too afraid to ask her cousin for help. Flora looked over at her sister's husband and commented, Hiraku looks weak. But when I heard that he had captured the Hellwolf and beat the Wyvern, Flora, sorry for the 7 days. Hiraku now knows the dogs he has kept for so long. You are the Wolf of Hell. And to apologize to Flora for scaring you earlier. Then Hiraku made you some food. Make the girl enjoy it in a delicious way. Can't resist. Hiraku said there's fermented tofu in it. You've spent a lot of time experimenting. Flora doesn't know what fermentation is. Then Hiraku explained that these are the Vi creatures, can make some foods fermented, like cheese or wine. I find this knowledge very interesting. So Flora saved it as a subject for research. Then say goodbye to the Hiraku group and leave. But she came back in a month and led Theo a team of maids with 2 milking cows. That makes Hiraku happy because they can make butter and milk. At this point, the maid is called in, and Hiraku can use them at will. Tia began to get worried because she was afraid of me. They are weak because there are vampires in the base. Tribe fairy. Up to the other animals, there's a lot of individuals, but angels like you are alone. Think for a moment. You asked Hiraku to let you out. For a while, until you come back. He brought his own followers, along with some of the lizards. The same chicken can lay eggs. The appearance of many people. That the civilization of the base has grown rapidly. The maids of the demon race. Hiraku is responsible for the housework, but they're very simple in cooking. So Hiraku taught them how to cook what he knew. And the angel girls was sent to guard around in case Given reappears near the base. Once again, the lizards are healthy. He was put in charge of his hands and feet. Now Hiraku realized the number of villagers has increased rapidly. Leah brought back a lot more. The other fairy girls. For the son of the fairies, there's no one alive now. It's their responsibility to keep the breed alive. It was heavy on the farmer's shoulder. Hiraku light. The next day Hiraku summoned the representatives of the clans to talk about. Because at first there was only a small hut. It's now a large village. So, Hiraku wants everyone to name this village. You suggested that you take the name of Hiraku. But that doesn't sound right. I want to name it after the forest. Its name is the Dead Forest. Jabatone told him to open the door. And outside that's the big tree. Hiraku has always been called the Big Village, because that's where the village started. And so that night, they threw a party to celebrate the village that was named. And to celebrate is definitely indispensable. The first drink the village made, people later called Hiraku the village chief, makes you a little hesitant, but even if you say only, you are the only one fit for this position. Make Hiraku glad. Announce the party officially started, and everyone came together to the pier. Congratulations to the village, as well as Hiraku. He is called the village chief, but Hiraku's work hasn't changed. Previously, there was only farming in the village, but now there's more livestock. Hiraku was told by a guardian angel that a messenger of the ghost kingdom has arrived. You are welcome. I knew it was the four kings. When Hiraku introduced you as village chief, then he gave you a gift to show his friendship. Bill then relayed the word of the Maya to Hiraku that he wants to talk to Hiraku about your land. Remember the past, even if you say that this land has something to do with Maya. So Hiraku was worried. You're afraid the Maya will make you pay the harvest tax, or I'll send you away. So you offered to pay 10% to be here farming. Bill was surprised to hear that before the Hiraku decision, and he agreed, and the two then signed a contract. The tax will be 10% of the farm produce. The deadline is before winter every year. After signing the contract, then Hiraku even gave him gifts to bring back. Hiraku is still a little nervous. He said that because he paid taxes. It will be protected by the devil. The light tells you. In fact, the tax rate here is 50 to 60%. But Hiraku was able to reduce the tax rate to 10%. There was also the gift of the devil. It's a panacea, too. It is not to be called the diplomatic god of the village. There are for kings now. We're surprised to learn that Hiraku had submitted to them. I don't know if he's up to something. When the power of Hiraku destroyed even Weaven, you have in your hands all these characters, like a princess, vampires, and the angel of destruction. There's an army of hell wolves in the village, with the fairy girls. Outside the village, there are more assassins on guard. Hiraku wanted to join the army of the Demon King. Bill couldn't refuse. Because if you refuse unwisely, even the ghost fortress was flattened. Even before Bill came back, he was given a gift by Hiraku. I thought it was something dangerous, but inside are 6 apples. And Bill recognized the wrapping cloth. Gifts woven by a demon lord spider. It has the same power as the previous Maya. The serpent king of the people heard it without fear. I asked to resign again. The next morning the character visited Hiraku times. This is Dorm the dragon and his Gucci minions. They also brought some gifts to interact with Hiraku. Inside was a very precious sword. Gucci then introduced. They live in the south of this land. Because they are neighbors, so they wanted to come to say hi to Hiraku for an hour. Hiraku, thank you for your thoughtfulness. But you see, Dorm has been bowing his head. Gucci reminded Dorm to stand up. Hiraku saw how big he was. You invited Dorm inside, then he turned back to human form. Still afraid of the power of Hiraku. So, your introduction is not very natural. But when you go inside and drink with Hiraku, it was fun. You said you wanted to stay here forever. And don't come back. Gucci said there was a lot of work to do. We have to go back to solve it. With back, you can't be here to bother Hiraku. After Dorm came back, Hiraku was thinking about receiving guests. SAO for thoughtful. There will definitely be a lot of people coming here to visit the village. After a few days, Hiraku arrived. Because the number of visitors will be very large, everyone. Who suggested building a large house? The first floor will host guests, and the upstairs is for guests who want to stay. And so the fairy girls again embarked on the construction of the guest house. And Hiraku figured out how to welcome guests in. To be friendly. For the angel girls, they are suspicious of guests. And the lizards are always 5. 5 weapons on hand. The guests who have not come are afraid to leave. So people made Jabuton a bell to be dedicated to the arrival of visitors, and Hiraku and Ru and Tia will go to the gate to receive. Finish listening. Then you and I are against your decision. They are afraid that there will be bad guys posing as visitors to the village. And so the reception team got a few more members. Flora wants to stay here. Then Hiraku gave you the night watch. Because vampires can stay up all night without feeling tired after all the preparation is done. Then Hiraku had the opportunity to welcome the next guest. That's the beast people from the mountains in the east, from Holing Village. I saw that there was something wrong with them, so I asked a lot of questions. The wolves of hell are just as alert. When they're sure they're not the enemy, you invited them inside. To the guest house, they were greeted by beautiful maids. When preparing for the party, 3 girls locked them inside. When I saw Hiraku wondering, BA said that, ever since, those who pay homage, bring gifts when you come here. These people don't bring gifts. They can't be treated normally. To come back here, they left the people behind. That caused the credibility to drop a notch. So, they're only served meager food here. Hiraku found them a little unlucky. Give them some more wine. But only 2 cups for each person. Hiraku came to ask about their lives. The representative of the animal group is Golf. Let Hiraku know that their village, mainly by hunting and mining, they have a lot of transactions, trading with people on the other side of the mountain. But because the trade is so difficult, they have to find new business partner. And while searching, they've discovered your great village. Tia felt uneasy. I asked about the two people in the back. Ambush. Guff said he was afraid of being SAO when he first came here. Some people run to the news when you see that Guff's group is friendly. Hiraku was more open to him. Guff wants to be traded and exchange goods with Hiraku. Because there's no currency, we only exchange products with each other. The two villages are also far apart, so there must be something to ship. So Hiraku figured out how to use wolves to get them to carry the goods. When Hiraku asked what are the objects they want to trade, Hulk will tell you. They want to get food from the village of Hiraku. And in return, they'll give it to you. Glass and metal utensils. That's what Hiraku needs. So you agree. Trade between the two sides is established. The animals couldn't help but rejoice because the village is very poor, and this is the first time they've done big business. Not long after, Hiraku was on his way to attend the village market. Hauling Ray also changed. Hiraku faced to go there to attend, because it's a long way from Hauling village. So they had to ask Doram for help. In exchange, he'll take a barrel of wine from you. It seems he hasn't forgotten the taste, after all the times here, with the help of Doram. That the transaction went very well. Tia returned a few days later and reported back to Cho Hiraku. The animals are delighted to enjoy your produce. See, Doram seems sad for selling the precious cask of Hiraku. So you invited him to stay tonight. To eat and drink as you please. Tia Cho Hiraku now knows that in Hauling village, there are 20 people who want to migrate here. And of course, they're all beautiful young girls. Hiraku heard that and asked for 2 more young men. There are a lot of girls here. The next day, the beast girls came to Hiraku's place. There's a girl named Senna. And there's 3 young men. Just as you asked. This guy is too young for the rules. But Hiraku thinks 55 more. They will become the future of the village. At that time, they will take responsibility with you. Both of a man. The girls sighed. I am afraid that I will be treated badly when I come here. But Hiraku reminded them not to worry, and asked the servant to prepare the room for them. It's about seeing evolve with the spider. Everyone has to roll out. The girls, you can also use magic easily. Just like everyone else. Now Hiraku sees from the lizards to the animals. It can all be very simple. Even Slim can spit out fire. Make Hiraku feel weak. But you think you should just focus on farming, instead of trying to learn magic. Suddenly there was a very strong vibration nearby. Guardian Angel to Hiraku newspaper. There was a fight north of the forest. It's a battle between a bear and a giant snake. The girl seems very nervous, for fear that the battle would affect the village. But Hiraku is thinking, see if the bear meat with the snake meat can be eaten. The girl then took Hiraku to 2 giant animals. When I saw them, I was going to call for more help, for fear that they are too strong. But Hiraku asked her to lower the altitude a bit. You hold it in your hand, and in one stroke, both animals were rolling around. The angel girls can't help but admire. Because it's definitely only Hiraku that makes them go to the altar, only in such a way. Right now, I asked how you would make them. Hiraku put the meat in the pot, then pour more wine and stir it up. In just a few minutes, the wine cellar bear meat was out of the oven. I have no experience making this, so the meat still tastes fishy. Lucky, the crispy snake meat is beyond imagination. It tastes very much like chicken, so Hiraku wanted a little more spice to accompany. He went to Flora's lab and asked her about a disinfectant to destroy the Vi creatures, to avoid illness and abdominal pain. After getting medicine from Flora, Hiraku asked about the miso soup last time. She said she tried it, but kept trying. 7 failures and had to rebuild the hut 3 times. Hiraku, when you're done, encourage you to keep trying. Then, he went to the chicken coop and picked up some eggs. Hiraku smashed all the eggs into 8, then add salt, vinegar, and oil. Stir for a while. And finally made mayonnaise. So the deep-fried chicken is done. Make Flora praise delicious sobs. After eating, you instructed Flora to make miso soup by boiling soybeans and soaking them in water. Next is crushing beans and add cozy mushroom with salt. Then round into a cake and squeeze it into a barrel. Finally, they're stored in the basement so they ferment themselves. Although it will take a few months to complete, if you want to taste good, you have to be patient. Right, Go to Hiraku and tell him you have a guest waiting." When I got there, I met 3 dwarves and their representatives. The name is Donovan. He heard that Hiraku's wine was delicious. "I want to ask you for a drink." Hiraku agreed, but the girls flatly refused, because precious wine is not easy to give away. Now, Donovan says that even though they don't have any money, the winemaking techniques are full of them. 3 people have gone through a lot of danger here, because this village has a lot of produce. It will definitely make good wine. The girls are delighted when they hear it. That's from that day. All 3 of them got into the wine business. With his top-notch technique, they've made excellent corn wine. Hiraku tried it and found it to be a bit strong. The taste is not to be discussed. New wine, by the way. Hiraku held the party to welcome the clan, animals and dwarves. It was fun for everyone to eat together afterwards. Doran was drunk as usual, and Hiraku is talking to Donovan. He thanked Hiraku. "I've accepted him to make wine here. He was the first adult male to come here." "So you asked that. Do you like any of the girls here?" Donovan said that. "The girls here are all beautiful, but your taste are bearded girls. So I don't care who." Hiraku thought. It's a cultural divide. There are people who eat like this. Woke up the next morning. Hiraku suddenly saw a dragon in the sky, approaching the village. "I find it not very friendly. So, you create a spear to defend yourself." At this moment, Doram appeared to stop the Kier dragon. Hiraku thinks they're in internal conflict. Then there's the third one, too. To help Doram, Hiraku attacked the dragon. "I just ran to that dragon." Then Hiraku prepares for the next blow. At this point, Gucci stopped Hiraku. They say they're not the enemy. "So, you just played Doram bored. It's his wife and daughter. Now they're starting to tell us." Because Doram often leaves the house in the evening, with stealthy looks. His wife suspected that he had run away from home. The handrails were replaced until the next morning. The treasures in the house fly without wings. Doram says, "It's all for work. Your relationship with this village, but his daughter on the roof. You think you have something to hide from them." Until he screamed that he wasn't promiscuous, then they forgive. Hiraku said, "I am sorry for attacking them, because the fault lies with your family." So Doram reminded his wife and daughter to apologize. Hiraku sees all misunderstandings resolved. So Hiraku said goodbye to them. The lady remembered the spear, with the terrible power of Hiraku before. "If you don't ask your old friend Jabedin to help you, I'm sure you're not standing here anymore." So the lady gave her daughter justice. It's a very important thing. It's staying in the village, and try my best, so that Hiraku doesn't become an enemy of the dragons. In front of a scary face like this, Rashi dared not refuse. And from that day on, Rashi became a new member of the village. For being asked by Doram, so Hiraku also wanted to give Rashi something to do. The power of the dragon is too great. It makes everything out of control. Sometimes Rashi just sneezed made a big explosion. The wolves were too afraid to come near. Cows and chickens do not dare to produce milk by laying eggs. Tia then reveals to Hiraku that dragons not only have great power, but also very smart. So Hiraku appointed Razi as the diplomatic god of the village, and Rashi's first victim, the four heavenly kings. Bill was talking to a dragon. Let Bill not be afraid. Rashi's body seems to do a good job of diplomacy. Make Hiraku very satisfied. The four kings couldn't believe. Now that village has more dragons, so they have personality. They put spies inside to monitor the village. So the next morning, Bill called his daughter Florim to deliver something important. "You want your daughter to come to investigate the village's military. I'm very confident in my magic." Florem accepted. After a look at the village, "Then you came to say hello. I knew Florem was going to live here, Daddy. Come out to welcome." Makes the Flogram a little scary, because I just came here to see something like that. Can't believe that. A legendary dragon. Now I'm introducing you to agricultural products. We had been together for a while, and Rasti was busy. So Florim enlisted to investigate. There are all kinds of animals here. The dwarves and the vampires of the angel tribe. There's Ti and the 3 assassins. On guard duty. Go one more round. I found out there are more fairies. Powerful force like this. What does the Maya army deal with? So the animals here are a whole pack of wolves, hell and the devil spider. But as far as you know, it's just the subordinates here. The last boss of the village. How scary it is. At this moment Hiraku came by and said hello to Florim. Hiraku is just a normal person, so Florim ignored you and left. But when we got back to the village, then you know who was the village chief. Florim is scared. Because you disrespected Hiraku just now. You know you're the daughter of Build. And I'm glad you can get along with Razy. But it's a little confusing when Florim keeps seeing me. Is again afraid. The next story is about the Slim. They were brought back by TIA, and has spawned all sorts of different colors. It looks harmless, but I don't know. Can one of you drink? And yet, he even swallowed a whole barrel of wine. It makes girls very upset. And to punish it, they set up a trial to convict them. Along with a lot of punishment for Slim, as cremation or drying to death. But Florim stopped them and said, Slim is already sorry. And so Slim was acquitted. Every time there's a party, it shows up and joins everyone. Hiraku is also fun, but it's probably not fun to have so many. The sky is now beginning to fall. The weather is getting cooler, makes Hiraku suddenly crave hot pot. So Hiraku and the girls make hot pot meals, always for hot, but hot pot without any seafood. It's a shame. Everybody finished listening. I don't know what kind of seafood Hiraku is talking about. I have never seen the sea. So the girls. Just imagine the giant animals. And now Florim says. South of this forest, there's a busy seafood market. As soon as I heard that, Rashi wanted to fly there. Florim contacted a known merchant. That's right. When it comes to food, every girl is passionate. So the girls were on their way. And 3 days later, they brought in a businessman named Michael. He brought it here. The kinds of seafood that we trade there. When I hear Hiraku talk about algae, he promised he'll collect them and deliver them to you. By the way, he's here today with BA. The first purpose is to send seafood to Cho Hiraku. 2 is a long-term cooperation proposal, and BA is that he wants to be authorized traders here. That's taking over all the agricultural trade here. With outside, because the produce that Hiraku grows is so appealing, he promised to sell them at a high price. Hiraku is a little suspicious. He gave you a list of items that I'm dealing with, so that you can consider and agree to your offer of cooperation. Before he left, he expressed his wish to come here again, try the wine of Hiraku. But Razy refused. Wine alone cannot be sold. Then she brought the merchant back. And Hiraku just commented on Michael. He's a good businessman. I hope that the products sold will be sold, and this partnership will last. Michael, right now, I'm glad to have connected with Hiraku. But in your heart, you're afraid you're going to shit your pants. It was 3 days ago. Michael was informed. There's a group of clients from far away looking for you. They brought some produce to talk about. Exchange of goods. I thought it was a small transaction. So, you're going to send them away. But a trader's intuition. Tell me this is a good deal. So, you invited them in, and you knew it was Florim, the daughter of one of the 4 kings. If only he had sent you back. It must have flown first. Florim is the Razy. Princes of the Dragon. I think this business is a bit risky, but you can't butter them. My whole life as a trader, you've never been involved in a transaction like this. When now his life is in 1,000 pounds. Hanging hair, but when looking through agricultural products, that's what it's worth. They can sell for a few dollars, not play. The time is not right. So he agreed to deal with 2 girls. Michael was the wrong person to collect seafood. The best quality. At the same port, I'm going to give you a trip to meet your partner. I always thought I was going to the capital. But, where you go to trade? It's a dead forest again. Before going there, he also played the long clan family of Rashti. To the village of Hiraku. You get to meet all the characters. When I returned, I was threatened by Rashti. He breathed a sigh of relief at this point. When the transaction is successful, but your limbs are falling off. And the Hiraku and the girls couldn't help but rejoice. Finally, they also enjoyed the holy seafood hot pot. Woke up the next morning, Hiraku sees a dragon provoking him. It even knocked out 3 angels, making Hiraku wonder, I don't know if he wants to fight me or not. And it destroyed everything around it. Along with a very evocative attitude, so Hiraku used it to create a lance. And with just one throw, the dragon fell when